Hey
Hey,
there.
Chris.
How
How
are
are
you?
you?
Good. How are things?
Oh, just, don't know if I mentioned to you, we had a little slip on structural engineering.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Well, hopefully we've recovered. There's somebody else who's got time right now, so that should bode well for us.
Okay. Hey, Sean,
Hey, good evening.
how are you, sir?
Doing all right. Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing well.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Great, Louie. Good to see you.
Likewise. I'm gonna blur my background.
Hey, Sean,
My office.
before we get everybody on here, I want to schedule some time with you to learn more about your product.
Let's do that. Let's do it. Would love to do that.
So maybe next week, or something, or week after is fine too.
Let's do. Probably the week after. I'm in Dallas right now, and I got to go to Phoenix and Houston next week. We've got some installs in Phoenix I've got to be at. So
Okay.
week after that, maybe that next Monday or Tuesday.
I could do Monday, the 24th.
Hey, let's do that, man.
You want to do like just after lunch, like a 1 o'clock or something?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a little presentation or a little?
I do. If I can use it, great. If not, I can speak to it.
Okay.
Really, whatever's easiest, for this format.
Yeah, I just want to get kind of maybe a 30,000 foot view of what you do and how it works, and
Oh, yeah.
You may need to get a little bit more familiar with it because you may be helping us put it
right,
in place at our house.
exactly. So 1 o'clock on the 24th.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Got it. I've got a Zoom thing. I can invite you if you want to just do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
Okay,
that's easy.
I'll just do this right now.
Yeah.
So Sean, what's your experience in regards to homes that are about 4,000 square feet? Is it 200 amp service or is it plus?
You're right on that edge, right? So, we kind of see 3,000 to 3,500 kind of being right there at 200 amp. Really, depending on the technology you're putting in and, what else you're doing. If it's, you may bump to 400 amp. It's funny. We had a long discussion on that today of, we're working on grabbing some examples, do some load calculations to kind of figure out kind of where those breaks tend to be. We've, on the production builder side, 200 amp for a 4,000 square foot house isn't a big deal. Obviously, when you get into semi-custom or custom, you could end up with a little bit more stuff, being routed through that panel. If you're 200 amp, but what's pushing you over is the EV charging, which we do see a lot, then you can actually get away with our panel, because you don't have to count the EV charger as part of the load calcs. We dynamically charge, and it does it, you can actually oversubscribe the panel with the EV charger. The other part too, that'll be interesting going into 23, that code's being updated, and they're supposedly, what we're hearing is the NEC code is going to allow you to oversubscribe for some other devices as well, because they realize that there's a lot of cost going up to 400 amp, which is going to put more strain on the grid. The second part of that is there's a number of devices in your house you're just not using all the time, so if you can shed those or throttle those, as long as you have a energy management system like a span panel, you should be able to manage the utilities a little bit better coming into your home without having to upgrade service. So we're anxiously awaiting that. I was on the code committee call with NAHB yesterday, and sounds like a lot of that still I think it's getting voted on the next week or two. So hopefully we'll have a little more clarity into that in the next month or so.
So what's the best solution for me in regards to figuring this out? Should I just go through and tally up the things that probably be used concurrently?
That's what I would do. And, and if you've got an electric plan, we've got a person that can take a look at that and give some recommendations on it. Actually, he happens to be in Lyons. So,
Oh, yeah?
yeah. So Stephen Kane is one of our folks that works directly. And I've had him on a number of calls with builders, kind of walking through load calcs, trying to figure, taking a look at plans, trying to figure out how to optimize it. And he's great. Ton of experience, and actually he's right down the corner, right around the corner from you.
Oh, well, all right. Well, that's good. Yeah, because I need to go through and tally up what it could be. I mean, all the bigger items that we're gonna have, meaning electric fireplaces, as in plural, induction cooktop, a double oven, a steam generator, all those sort of things I need to go through. And then it's the heat pump, two heat pumps for the house, and then the heat pump water heater.
Yeah, I would
I need
imagine you would be at 400 amp given, and that's where we see a lot of it too, is a lot of those electric appliances push you over. And that's why we're anxiously awaiting that new NEC code to see how that, if they're going to allow us some grace on those appliances. I know that's particularly for Houston, talking to some of the builders, Denver's going fully electric in 2024, and talking to the builders that I know in Denver, that's one of the concerns they have, is because of the service is one of the costs, but the other cost is once you add all the different electric appliances, and you're almost forced to go from 200 amp to 400 amp. So we're kind of working those calculations. I'm actually about to sit down with a really large production builder out of California in the next at the end of this month. We're going to start helping them with their load calculations too, because they've started to put 400 amp service in a number of communities, particularly in Southern California, which Denver's following that route. And we feel like if we've got the right, depending on how those loads are laid out, we might be able to help them stay within a 200 amp service. So
the challenge is with most of the IRC or the NEC codes is that they're put in place, like, again, 2023, but
Yep.
there's a lag period of usually about a year before municipalities adopt it, solely because they've got to get their staff trained on it. In many cases, the addendum to the manual is almost as long as the manual.
You're right. Yeah, we see that with NFPA and a number of those, building codes. Kind of a fun fact, or I thought it was kind of funny. The state of Mississippi a few years ago passed legislation that you couldn't be more than 2 codes behind, or 2 cycles behind, because they were at the point, I think it was in 2018, I think they were still running off like 2008 code, and so they kind of came back and said, yeah, that's a safety issue, because there was a number of life safety devices that were, they didn't have carbon monoxide alarms. They didn't have the same amount of smoke detectors and all of those different items. So the state actually came back and said, well, you can't be any further than 2 cycles behind.
Well, that makes sense. But Mississippi, do you need carbon monoxide alarms unless you bring a power generator inside your house?
Well, it depends, right? Because if you're running gas appliances, and most of Mississippi is running gas,
you got it. Yeah.
The code for that, if you're running any type of gas appliance, you have to have it. Or even if you're all electric and you have an attached garage.
Right, I know. I'm being facetious. See you, Robert. How are you, sir?
Good.
Good evening.
Hi, Sean, and hi, Chris.
Hello.
I just want to make sure, Louis, do you know enough to tell everybody to work with our builders and to talk about the HBA, or do you want to give me 2 minutes to do it?
I will. It might be better doing it later. You may want to go off and have dinner or watch part of the football game that Chicago hopefully is going to beat the Commanders.
Only if you lived in Evanston, Illinois, can you root for the Chicago Bears.
Oh,
That's where Louis is from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well-
what's the timing? This is the second call for me this week with a football game on in the other room. I mean, somebody didn't plan this very well.
Yeah, well, you can blame us,
Yeah.
me in particular. I got the dates that I could originally get at the two jurisdictions. And we didn't want to change the dates when we could put the programs together. But
Yeah.
we can pay attention to your schedule for the next 17 programs that we do. So get early and
Yeah.
let us know what works for your schedule.
Right. Okay.
Well, I see Katie is in the chat. And she's saying go Bills. And yeah, I agree. They're doing pretty well this year.
Katie is from the Buffalo area.
I get it. I get
The
it.
team to beat. That's the team to beat this year.
And Norm Levy was her favorite coach for years.
Yeah.
But they've not won the Super Bowl yet.
4
Chicago's
losses.
won it. Denver's won it.
Yeah, but like Louis, let me just say this before you guys jump in. There's a lot of scam artists that are builders that are non-members that are taking deposits, and now that they're getting a lot of deposits, they're pulling out of Denver completely.
Oh,
And I just want to make sure that these people know that they can count on our members from the association. So I'll be back in about 30 minutes.
Very good, Robert.
Thanks.
perfect.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Chris.
No, thank you. Really
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
And thank you, Louis.
Well, it's my pleasure, Robert. You know that. Wait just a couple more minutes here before we get started.
You bet. Yeah. Speaking of that, I saw a guy. There was a guy in Florida that they, and I don't know if he was legit or not, but they were, with the hurricane there. They've got a group of guys. If you're not licensed, you're not there. They're cracking the hammer on it.
They should.
Well,
It's terrible.
There was a contractor, was it statewide, whatever, including had a house in my neighborhood and just
Yeah.
bolted. They just bolted, and unfortunately, there's some money involved in this. There's also some liens in place already because the subcontractors didn't get paid. And it's like, yikes. One more minute and then we'll get started. Just
Good.
All right, I'm going to get started here. Welcome, everybody, to this presentation about smart technology and why is the perfect time to be able to do it. I'm joined by two really astute individuals, Chris Amos of Listen Up. Many of you may know that name. Then there's Sean Summer. And I'm going to guess most of you may not know the name of the company, Snap.io, or Span.io, rather. And I'm going to let Sean explain what that's all about. But let me go first to Chris. Go ahead, Chris. Why don't you give a brief introduction as to what Listen Up's all about?
Sure. Thanks, Louis. Listen Up is a Colorado-owned family company. We've been in business. This is actually our 50th year, and this month we're celebrating it. So as of October 1st, we're celebrating our 50th year. We have retail stores all up and down the Front Range, from Boulder and Denver and Colorado Springs, as well as the New Mexico market. Listen Up is started off as an audio video retailer back in the day when it was just important to go into stores and pick up stereos and TVs and bring them home. And we've morphed and migrated in over the last 35 years into smart home technologies and our integration services that include everything from automated window coverings to lighting solutions to networks, enterprise grade networks, security solutions, and then of course the audio and video that I referred to originally. But yeah, Listen Up is a full service integration shop with a retail and online component. And many of the folks that we've been talking to, some Marshall Fire victims, have have been customers of Listen Ups for many, many years, and we're happy to offer some discounts and be able to help the community rebuild.
Do you want to just briefly mention what your discounts are?
Yeah, we basically have a flat 15% off programming, labor, and then we have additional discounts based on vendors that a homeowner chooses to work with, everything from Sony to Yamaha and Control4 and so on, that range anywhere from 10, 15 to 25% additional off. So we're really trying to make it as competitive and compelling as possible, especially when you're in a new home situation. When you don't have drywall up, there's a lot of opportunities for us to deploy some new systems in those installations.
I'm sure you're going to get a little bit more into what the merits of doing it without having drywall in place here a little bit. Sean, why don't you describe what Span.io is all about?
Yeah, well, Span.io is we're a newer company going into our 4th year. We're on our 2nd generation of product, and we actually provide a whole home energy management system. It takes the place of your current, old gray breaker box, and it gives you full level, circuit level control and data on all the energy that's coming into your home. One of the things that we have kind of found is, and not that we've found, but probably everybody has seen, is there's a movement toward electrification across the country, whether it's a proliferation of EV cars or homes just going fully electric. There's a number of reasons for homes going fully electric. A lot of it health driven. There's a lot of studies out there that a fully electric home is a healthier home. And so we kind of help with that process of being able to make that move. And we also, as that cornerstone of your, energy management system for your house, it really does make your home future proof. So it allows you the ability to add solar down the road and manage that effectively, add full battery backup to manage, if you've got an outage in your area, or you need to, if you have a power outage and you want to charge your car, we've got the ability to do that with our Span Drive. And so we're really in that marketplace to really give you that, the full energy management system. And we all realize, one of the largest expenses we have is our utilities. And so being able to kind of manage that and have that data, is kind of paramount in a home in the future.
Well, cool. All right. So Chris, why don't you give us a rundown of why it's important to do it before you get too far in your development, especially perhaps even before you do permitting? Hold on. I need a mute. Go ahead.
Sure. So I guess the best analogy I can use that everybody understands is the car analogy. And when you're shopping for a new vehicle and you spend all the hours and all the awful time buying a car, which is just such a lovely process, everybody enjoys it. You drive off the lot and you have your cell phone and you realize that, wait a second, my cell phone can't connect to the vehicle. Oh, this vehicle doesn't have a backup camera. It only has an AM/FM radio in it. No one talked to me about technology or any of the features of the offerings. That's kind of how it is with homes today. And if builders are not having a conversation, or you don't have an integration partner working with your builder or working with your architect, chances are those conversations are not going to come up, or they're not going to come up to the level that you really should have them at. And really, when we talk to customers and they say, but everything is wireless, why do we need to talk about running wires in walls? Well, yes, there are a lot of wireless solutions out there. And the way that we see wireless is it's an addition to your wired network. Everything in the house that has a network connection on it, which is many, many devices these days, including refrigerators and washers and dryers and your computers and your printers and so on, they all should be tied to a network, a hardwired network connection. Think of it as the items that you're stationary in your home and not moving around your house like you would a phone or a tablet. They really should be wired to the network. And the other reason why wires are so important before walls are up is because we can actually add access points wired access points that allow better wireless for your home. So there's lots of reasons, and we can get into details about shades and lights and so on, but wireless is a fantastic technology, and we want to deploy it everywhere we can, but it doesn't come without wires. And that conversation should happen very early on in the planning stages with an architect, prior to holes being dug, or at the very least that time frames. Don't think of it as the drywall's up, we're ready to move in 6 or 8 weeks. Now let's talk about entertainment, network security, and so on. Those conversations should happen very early on in the planning stages.
So, Chris, why, I know you guys have licensed engineers on staff, electricians.
We do.
Which is great.
We do. We have about 150 employees across the Front Range, and that includes not only sales and account managers, but project managers, programmers, technicians, and systems engineers, and also electricians. So we have 5 electricians, including a master electrician on staff, where we do not only low voltage, we call low voltage, which is category cable for networks, speaker wire, but also line voltage for your typical 220 volt receptacles for the rest of the house, or your 110, your little plug. So we do really everything. Every electron in the house, we like to say, is within our wheelhouse.
So, but nonetheless, there is also the potential of engaging with just a straight up electrician. And from a
100%.
smart technology standpoint, what's the downside of that?
Well, the upside okay, so just working with an electrician for everything, including.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a big benefit to working with a low voltage company that understands smart home technology and does more than just line voltage installation. There's programming, there's engineering, there's a lot of facets and intricacies that are involved, software intricacies that are involved with smart home automation and deploying those systems. It isn't just running Romex through walls. That being said, when we run the Romex through walls, we can offer more profitable, discounted opportunities because we're doing both. We also work with electricians. Don't think that if we can't do it all, that we can't work with you. We work with electricians. I would just caution you and say, please allow us to have a conversation with you and your electrician and your architect, so that we're all at the table together, and not just say the electrician's just going to go to a distributor and run a bunch of wire in the house for you.
So if you go wired, I mean, I hear a bunch of different things like, access points and mesh networks and all of that. What's the pros and cons of all these network add-ons?
Well, the benefit to having wired network in your home is, again, anything in your home that is stationary and is a network device should be wired to the network. All of the devices that are working throughout the house that you may move around through the house, like a phone or a tablet or a laptop, those are your wireless devices. Think of your TV and, let's say, your streaming service. You're not moving your TV and your streaming service around from room to room, I hope. It's stationary and it's installed in the wall. It should be wired to the network. One of the reasons that we see so many issues with people's home networks, and they're not up to par and they're not like an integrated enterprise network at a corporation, is because networks have become do-it-yourself and they've become aftermarket. So you just go to the store, it says it has a network connection, and people just keep continuing to dump network devices in their home that are all wireless. Networks can only handle so many devices, and you start to have latency, you start to have drop-offs, you start to have disconnects, and you start to have collisions, not to mention you could have potential issues with your neighbor. So the less wireless devices you have at any one given time on your network operating, the better. You want to have some sort of a balance between wired and wireless solutions.
So in a home, is there like I don't know what the best way to call it, but a big box that basically allows all these Ethernet cat cables to be plugged into?
Yeah, typically what happens in a home, whether it's a production home, a semi-custom, or a custom home, is there's some sort of a demarcation point in the home where all of the wires are run. Typically, the high voltage and the low voltage panels are very close together with one another. We like to run the data and TV wires back to a home run location where we can do switching then from that location. So when we work with homeowners or builders, we like to ask what questions about how do you live in your home? Where do you watch TV? And we ask these questions because we want to identify where the data and where the TV should be in those homes. If you think back to when you bought your house before, many of us, I know I've never built a custom home myself. I've bought either a production home or and a pre-finished home. I've never built my own home. You don't have a choice on where any of this stuff is. When you're building a home, whether it be production, custom, semi-custom, you have choices from the get-go on where things can be. Take advantage of those choices. It's no different than the carpet color, the carpet finish, the wall color, and the countertops. You're making and selecting those choices. Don't leave the technology out from the choices that you have to make.
So again, I asked the question earlier about access points and mesh networks. What's the difference between the two? And
yeah, so a mesh network or what you might be familiar with the cable companies out there, and there's other companies that do this. They have basically you set up a router, a modem, and a router in your home that it has a wired gateway to the network, and then it has wireless capabilities. It's a wireless modem. The way that an aftermarket system works is you add on little nodes or little plugs that basically plug into the wall, and then they create a network extension wirelessly. They create, as Louis said, a mesh network to expand the capabilities of the existing router and modem that's in the home. That is not an ideal way to expand network coverage in the home. The best way to do it is to wire an access point from the gateway or from the modem so that you've got a physical connection to a new wireless access point, so that the extension, if you will, or the new room that you turned on, or the new level of the home that you've just added another access point to, has a physical connection back down to the original connection to the service provider. It's not just adding an add-on, if you will, which is not a very reliable nor efficient or effective way of extending a wireless network.
all right, so let's start going kind of room by room as to the things people may want to consider doing. And I know I was at this smart technology show 2 weeks ago, and my mind just kind of exploded there.
Yeah.
And so every day there's new things, but let's start with a kitchen, the sort of things that one might want to do in the kitchen from a smart technology standpoint.
Well, I don't want to take all of the ball here, but there's a lot of things you can do in your kitchen. And obviously we're not going to install a home theater in your kitchen, but it could be anything from a audio solution to video, to lighting, smart lighting solutions. And what I mean by that is the ability to create scenes and not just have a load on, load off button, but rather a scene control. So you've got 2 or 3 scenes where you can change multiple loads at the same time. You could also use your phone to do that. We have window covering opportunities, manual and automated window covering control. But then there's also appliances that are almost every one of them you can find on the market today have some sort of a network control or smart capabilities to be able to look at the inside of the refrigerator, know if your dishwasher is completely finished running. Same thing with washer and dryer. So there's a lot of smart capabilities in the kitchen these days that people don't think about. And again, before the walls are buttoned up, it's a great conversation to have with your designer, with your architect, with your builder, and an integration firm, so that it at least have the conversation so you know that it's out there. You can always run the wires. And then maybe you don't do anything with it, but you've got wires in the wall for potential down the road upgrades.
So just kind of cutting to the chase, and next week, the last presentation that we're doing is on lighting and wellness. And the kitchen is a real important area for lighting, especially for task lighting and the like. Do you install things like smart dimmers as well?
We do. We actually do the fixtures, the fixed fixtures in the ceiling, the lighting solutions. We don't do decorative. Decorative is a completely different category. But in terms of can lighting, we do that. We install the dimmers. We install the smart switches. We help program and set up the interface between whatever device you would like to have, whether that be a phone or a keypad, but we do all of that.
All right, so let's go to the bathroom and what smart things you may want to have in there.
Well, again, lots of things to offer. We've talked about, or on some of these other calls, I've talked about forever homes or aging in place, and or the concept that I'm going to get up. I know this personally, not to get too personal, but might have to get up at night and find my way down the hallway. And we sell solutions that have automated lighting based on room sensors. So it could illuminate a pathway to the kitchen, to the restroom, to someone else's room. So there are solutions there. Again, audio, sauna controls, lighting controls for bathrooms. We even have TVs that are built into mirrors. So
wow, that's a concept.
It's really cool. And if you think about it, and people always say to me, "Oh, I'm not watching TV in my bathroom." People spend more time in their bathroom than they realize. And aside from the kitchen, it's one of the most used rooms for people get ready. And we sell a ton of televisions that are part of the glass. So when the TV is not on, you don't see it at all. And you press a button and you've got either the news or ESPN or whatever you want that is on the mirror itself. So just really cool solutions like that enrich people's lives.
So a lot of this is, most of this controlled by voice that you're talking about?
Voice control, right. So in terms of how do you control these systems, it is anything from, or I should say everywhere from voice control, which is kind of the top of the pyramid in terms of hierarchy, just like your Xfinity remote would be. You can talk to these systems. You can use a touch panel. You could use a keypad. You could use a handheld remote. You could use a phone. Really, the interfaces for these systems are almost endless. You could use your laptop if you want to take a look at cameras outside, or you want to look at something or turn off some lights somewhere and you're doing some work. There are numerous ways to engage with and control your automation system or any part of your automation system.
So does this mean that I have to have, and I need to do this because she'll come up and talk to me, an Alexa on my countertop, or are there ways to be able to hide them, or perhaps even better yet, just like something that's integrated in the wall?
Yeah, so everybody's probably familiar with the consumer level products that come from either Amazon or Apple, Google, and so on. Those essentially are what we call a smart device that's a speaker. It's a microphone and a speaker. There are also devices that can be installed on the wall that can have a very small footprint, and they could just be a microphone. And then you can have several of these throughout the house, and you can just talk to the system. You have to call it out just like you would Alexa or Hey Siri for Apple, but you call it out and then it can make the changes to your automation system or any subsystem that is tied to that voice command solution without having to run to the little speaker that's on the kitchen counter.
So you mentioned a name earlier, a manufacturer by the name of Control4.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between Control4 and the Amazon, Apple, Google ecosystem?
Well, the biggest difference between the consumer level systems and the integration systems is I should say, is the amount of items and devices that are compatible with them. Not every bulb you buy from Home Depot or every door lock is compatible with Apple or Amazon or Google. Each of those systems have a limited amount of manufacturers that they can communicate with. Now, that's an ever-changing thing, and we all know, just like there's a new iPhone every year, that the list will continue to grow. The legacy systems, or the larger systems that are deployed by integration firms like myself, work with anything that has a network connection. So if you've got a wired or a wireless connection, we can almost certainly control it. So when you're looking at the consumer level products like Apple and Amazon, again, I'm not to negatively speak about those solutions, because they're fantastic and they work really well. The only knock is the limitation that they have on how many devices and what devices they can control. So if you look at them, there's just a handful of door locks, or there's just a handful of bulbs. So when you're designing a system, the best thing about designing a system for yourself are the choices that you get to make. When you use a consumer level system that's an aftermarket system, or that's a do-it-yourself system, you're limited on the choices you have to work with.
So again, coming back to, I mean, you guys install, like, again, Amazon
Well, we
Echo
do that,
devices.
correct. We will absolutely install that.
So my wife has an aversion to anything else that's on the countertops. But the only thing that she wants on the countertop is hand soap and her toothbrush charger.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. What do you do to be able to conceal that speaker, smart speaker, and perhaps what do you do to be able to allow it to communicate to, say, speakers in the ceiling?
Well, again, it's all about either the microphones being moved from a countertop device to a wall installed, just like a small thermostat would be. We also have some smaller devices, smaller than the standalone speakers, that could be installed and not be on the countertop. You know, the other thing I thought about when you're talking about the comparisons between the two is privacy. That privacy is a big deal. I can't speak too educatedly on the consumer level systems, because one of the driving factors behind it is privacy. So the Control 4 systems, the Josh AI systems, the Crestron systems, the Savant systems that we deploy, which kind of compete, if you will, with the Amazon and Apples, we don't have a privacy issue with that, where you know that you're getting put on a mail list, and or you may be contacted and so on. So there are some privacy issues with those consumer level systems as well.
Yeah, there was I'm trying to remember where I saw it. It's either Washington Post or New York Times article today, or on the issue of privacy with regards to, they were targeting Amazon devices because they have such a plethora of different things in their system that you can end up using. And I think it was, again, a New York Times article. It's if you get access to it, it was a very interesting article. I'm just trying to flip through my Washington Post page, but again, there's some, it's always on, it's always listening.
It's always listening, right? And it is a little disconcerting if you think about it, that the idea behind calling it out and saying, hey, is that you're accessing it so that it's ready to respond, but it is listening. It's always listening for you to ask it. So the question becomes, it's always listening, so what is it doing with what it's listening to? But anyway, we can get in the weeds on that one.
I know there's a rabbit hole there. I get it. Last question for the time being. You mentioned like scenes. What other scenes do you commonly do? Like, when somebody comes home, what sort of things do you do to be able to make the home inviting as you get there?
Yeah, we can actually program systems so that when you're driving up to your home, if you want to hit a button, you either have a thing called geofencing, which means when that phone gets in range of your system, we can have certain things happen. Or we can have you press a button and certain things can happen. And what Louis is talking about is scene control, and scenes can be anything from lighting scenes that include multiple loads. And what I mean by that is task lamps and ceiling fans and ceiling lights, as well as thermostat controls, audio controls, you name it, shades. Anything that we're controlling on the automation system can be brought into a scene and can be accessible either through voice or a single button press. So if you want a scene that says I'm home, or it's 5 o'clock, or it's making dinner time, we can design that for you. And in many cases with these automation systems that are out there today, you can customize them. Once they're set up, you can change them all you want. So you can have a, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you can have it's Thursday night football. You could have a Thursday night football scene. And that's going to be that the, kitchen lights are going to go a little dimmer and the TV is going to come on and it's going to go to, what is it, Prime that it's on, and everything will be ready to go. That's true with a all off or a away button, or, you drive away and everything shuts off. So automation is more than just remote integration and using a remote to control your home. It's about things happening automatically.
So have you ever done a 4th of July sort of lighting circumstance in the kitchen or the outside of the house?
There you go. That's right. We even sell a solution that is called it's a jelly roll,
Jellyfish. Jellyfish.
Yeah. So you know of it. So it's basically, I don't want to call it Christmas lights installed all year round, but that's kind of what it is for, it's LED lighting that's installed via network cable and speaker cable, basically 2 conductor, and it's installed through the soffits, and then you've got lights on the outside of your house all the time. So you can do your house with white lights for your party, and then when it's Halloween, you can change the color to orange, and Christmas, you've got your Christmas lights. It's a really cool solution.
Cool.
So just neat things like that.
All right, Sean, okay. I want to come back to what Span.io is all about and why people may want to incorporate this in.
Absolutely. Again, Span is really on the forefront of reimagining the electric panel that really we haven't updated in almost 100 years. And so it takes the place of, what or as my dad used to call the old breaker box, go flip the switch. And so we go beyond just the safety component of the electric box or the electric panel, and we've actually added smarts and relay behind it. So it is SPAN is short for smart panel, and it is a full energy management system. And so there's a number of reasons that we see people move toward the SPAN panel. One of the reasons could be that you just want to have a better handle on how you're using energy in your home, so you can make adjustments in the way you live in your home to save you money. Great example of that is, even my dad, who's a couple years from retiring. We had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and he goes, I'm really starting to look at all of these certain things that I can do, because I want to find a way to make sure that when I retire, I can spread that, I'm not spending money that unnecessarily on electric bills that I could be using to go play golf, right? And so, using getting the more data that you have allows you to make adjustments in your home. A second piece of that is, if you're looking to add an EV or electric vehicle in the next couple of years, our panel does it better than anybody else. And it actually allows you to add EV charging to the panel without having to upgrade your electrical panel or your electrical system. What we see a lot of times is, the standard 100 to 200 amp electric panel in a lot of cases can't handle the ability for an EV charger in the home. Or if they do add it, they're having to deregulate that charger down, which basically means if you were producing 10 kilowatts of an hour of charge, if you have to try to force it into a panel, a standard electric panel, you may only get 5. And, most people, one of the biggest anxiety points they have on an electric vehicle is getting a full charge. So what we've done is, we have a SPAN drive that's an accessory to the panel allows you to dynamically charge. So if you're in your house and you're cooking and you're doing things, it'll actually reduce, throttle down the charging capability. When you get finished, it'll throttle it right back up. So you get full capacity on your charging. And let's face it, guys. I mean, it's there, there's 35 cars on the market, models on the in the market today. That's going to be 150 within the next 18 months. The likelihood of, potentially one of your next cars is probably going to be an electric vehicle. And then the other part of that is, as you move towards being, fully sustainable, we see a lot of folks that go, you know what, we've had an unstable grid. We've had blackouts, we've had brownouts, we've seen my electrical, my costs that are involved in my electric bill have gone up. Most people don't, we've seen, bills go up. The national average was a little over 4% last year. It's been higher in other places. And when you compare that to only a 2% increase over the previous 20 years nationally, that's a significant movement. And I think, the concern is, we're going to still see 2 to 3% moves on our electric bills in the future. And SPAN allows you to manage that a little bit better. And it prepares you, if you decide to move to solar or storage, to be able to do it better. So everything we do is managed in an app. You actually see circuit level control or circuit level data, and you can control each one of those circuits in the app on your phone. I will echo what Chris had said earlier. Everything we do is Wi-Fi, but we prefer everything to be hardwired into the panel. So I will back Chris up on that comment as well. We see the same thing. We do have redundancies there where we have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and cell service, but though we truly look at those as backups. But you're able to manage all this through the app on your phone. So another great advantage is, let's say you take off, you're going off to dinner and you go, man, I can't remember if I turned off did I leave the stove on? Was there something else on in the kitchen? Did you have, and you're trying to remember it. You can actually on your phone, turn off the circuit specifically to your kitchen, right there on your phone and not have to worry about it. And you can turn it right back on as soon as you get back. So it does give you a lot of flexibility.
So with your panel, do you have proprietary circuit breakers, or is it just a standard circuit breaker that I could get at Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever? And if it's that way, how does it work then?
That's a great question. And we're not in the breaker business. So we're not trying to lock you into our ecosystem for energy management. You can use really any of the breakers that are commonly used in the marketplace. And the way it works is you've got your standard electric panel. When you open it up, you see the breakers just like you normally do. Albeit a nicer, much prettier, panel, LED lights that light up when you open it up, but all the smarts are behind that. So there's actually relays directly behind the breakers in the panel itself that allows the control and gathers the data and pushes that, collects it for you into the app in your phone.
So if it's an overcurrent circumstance, it trips at the circuit breaker, correct?
Correct.
And you have to go out to it to be able to toggle it off and then toggle it back on again?
That is correct. So, we do give you circuit level control, being able to turn it on and off from the app, unless there's a safety issue. So if there is a surge and it does trip the breaker, you do need to go out there and make sure that, everything is safe before you turn that breaker back on.
So let's go to the scenario. We have solar, we have a battery, but we don't want that battery powering everything in the house. Is there, again, I'm going to come back to the scene, if you will, perhaps, I don't know if that's the way you call it, to be able to turn off things that are not necessary. Is that possible with your system? Absolutely.
And in fact, we automate some of that. So if you have a battery backup, as soon as there's a power outage, what ends up happening is we actually, in the homeowner, you can decide what you want to do. You automatically, your circuits get divided up into 3 buckets. The first bucket is stuff that you don't need. That could be, maybe that's your outdoor lighting. Let's say you've got a blizzard come through, lights go out, probably not outside enjoying the backyard. So those will automatically go off. Then you have a second bucket, which is your like to have. So that may be your washer and dryer. You may have that on, but you're not necessarily using it the whole time. Could be a fitness room, could be your basement, could be a home theater room, could be a number of things, right? And then you have your I have to have, and that's probably any of your heating, cooling, depending on the time of year. It's most definitely going to be your refrigerator. Maybe it's an outdoor freezer in your garage. Those circuits will stay on. And so what'll happen is let's say your battery's at 100%. Once it moves to 75 or 80%, again, you get to, as the homeowner, get to set that threshold. It'll automatically shed the circuits, automatically, so to preserve space in your battery. So if your battery has a 6 hours, at full capacity is going to have be able to run for 6 hours, you may be able to actually stretch that to 7, 8, or 9 hours by just shedding different loads on there. Nice thing too is, let's say something gets automatically shut off and you go, man, I really did need to do a real quick load of laundry. You can go into the app, hit the button, and it'll move it right over to accessible.
So I trust this works the same way if one had a power generator outside their house?
It does. So we do have control there. It's a little bit different. We don't get down to the circuit level detail, but we do get some of that data, and we can turn off certain things on that. That's something that's continuing to be updated. We're working with a couple manufacturers right now to make some updates to hopefully get into the pure circuit level. But right now we can turn certain things on and off.
Okay. All right. So back to Chris. In the circumstance of like doors and other automation, what other things do you suggest having done in those circumstances?
I don't understand the question.
Well, like locks.
What are the
openers,
solutions out there? Yeah. So
things that sort.
Yeah, so with doors and door entry and locks, there are wireless devices. And in those cases, they're typically wired because we're not running a wire into that door. Those are wireless devices. We also have security solutions that are wired and wireless, or any combination of the above. So we may wire some contacts throughout the house, and then on some windows there may be some wireless sensors for security solutions. But door locks have got an interface just like we do for lighting solutions, where you can lock or unlock a door from really anywhere in the world. So right from your phone.
Do you work with any automatic door openers, whether it's a sliding door or a hinge door or anything of that sort?
There are some doors that are automatic. It depends on the type of door and the space required, but we do work with some manufacturers that have gates that are automated, as well as back doors and doors that main access doors. So the answer is yes. It's not a super common thing. Gates are big for us. We do a lot of gates and gate control and intercom and things like that. But the automated door thing is how do I put this? It's been increasing in popularity, but it depends on the customer and the needs of the customer. So we have a customer that's in a sip and puff wheelchair. The needs there are different, and so the requirements are such that everything needs to be automated, from the lighting to the shades to the doors.
And you go so far as to smart garage door openers or anything else of that sort?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, if you go buy a new garage door opener today, we don't sell garage door openers, but we do interface with garage door openers. They have network connections, and they're wired or wireless, and we can give you access to those as well on your mobile device or your computer, for that matter.
And what other new technologies that we're not aware of that you're seeing on the horizon that might be unique to be used?
Well, the voice activation is really gaining a lot of momentum. The services out there, the TV services out there that really kind of pioneered and started this in the last few years, it's now really been taking off, and it's become a primary way to control a lot of automation systems that we deploy regardless of the subsystem in the home, whether it be lighting, audio, video, shade control, network, and so on. So voice has really become the gold standard, if you will, or the gold standard request for automation versus, let's say, maybe 10 or 12 years ago when it was more of a touch panel on a wall. Today, people are putting less and less of that touch panel installed. It may only be in 1 or 2 places in the home, but they want to have a mobile device to be able to interface anywhere with it, and then they want to use their voice to control. So yeah, I'm trying to think of other bleeding edge things. I mean, outdoor entertainment is big, especially in this state. You know, you can play golf all year round. People grill and entertain and cook and do things outside all the time. We do a lot of outdoor entertainment. So what I mean by that is TVs and audio and lighting and you name it.
So from a standpoint of wellness and air quality and circulation, is that something that should be considered with the smart technology?
Yeah. So the quality of life, yeah, I would say that air filtration and purification is becoming a larger category as well, especially since COVID. It was happening before COVID, and it's been ramped up. It's been accelerated since then, and that's really the ability to, you know, purify and or clean, you know, the breathing air in your home essentially, and have control over that.
So if one went primarily wired in their home, do they have to, what bandwidth, if you will, from Comcast or CenturyLink or whatever, minimum do you recommend?
Well, remember with a system like, let's just use Comcast or Xfinity, the bandwidth that you're buying from them that you pay for every month with that modem is essentially your outbound, your inbound and outbound pipe, if you will. Everything that we're talking about in controlling the house when you're inside and on the network locally is done on the local network. So it doesn't require increased speeds from a service provider. The increased speeds come in when you're pulling information outside the home into the home, or sending things from the home out to outside of the home. Everything else is on the local area network and is controlled incredibly expediently on a wired or a wireless network inside the home, regardless of the internet service provider speed.
I get it. That makes sense that it's all local, except for primarily bringing things down, or you're pushing like video feeds up like we're doing right now.
Right. This is about as intense as you can get with bandwidth is video streaming. It's the most, you know, audio and video, and it's typically high resolution. I mean, probably most people on this call have been streaming movies, and whether it be on a laptop or on a TV or a streaming device, it requires a lot of bandwidth. That's very different from what is required with a local area network, which is also set up in your home. It's not dependent on the internet speed.
And what about smart, say, smoke, carbon monoxide alarms? You get into those sort of things, are those necessary?
We do. I mean, again, it's a conversation we like to have when we talk about security, surveillance, and life safety. So when we're doing installations, depending on the scope of the installation, we may be on the security system involved in installing smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, and that also may be something that's done by the electrician. So it just depends on who's doing it, but it's absolutely a conversation we like to have with a homeowner.
So I do know that, like the what is it? The Google Nest Protect,
Mhm.
the smoke alarms, combination smoke, carbon monoxide alarm. When they sense a bad event is happening, whether it's smoke or carbon monoxide, they immediately turn off the furnace and fan, because the last thing they want to do is to circulate, say, smoke through the house.
Right.
But I don't know if others have that feature. Is it such that, like, between your system or Sean's system to be able to do that very function?
Yeah. So the answer to that is yes, there are other systems that do that. We do have systems that do that. Google has a system that does that. And I'm sure that Sean's got some abilities to shut off breakers and circuits and things like that as well. It's typically a matter of a sensor and an event, and then an action that takes place. But the answer to that is yes, there are systems that allow you to do that. It's no longer just a system that is a smoke or a carbon monoxide that has a loud noise only, and you've got to either figure out where it's coming from and or go press a button or get out of the house. There's other ways to interface with those detection systems in your home.
Got it. All right. So before we take any questions, I just want to point out something. There's been some unfortunate circumstances that have happened as a result of the Marshall wildfire for some people. There was a builder that called statewide that all of a sudden just poof, gone. And a lot of people lost deposit money. Some people are on mechanic liens. And so one of the things that I really want to mention is people who are companies that are members of the Home Builders Association of Metro Denver. I'm going to let somebody else talk about this, because we've got Robert August coming in, who is like the man in regards to the HBA. So I'm going to let him connect with audio. Robert, what timing? Well, I was just about to start talking about HBA Metro Denver and why people should be using members. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you everyone for participating. I'm sure that Chris and Sean and Louis have done a great job this evening on our 16th program. We have another one coming up on October 18th that Louis will be involved with as well. And I just wanted to take a moment. Many of you are not familiar with our Home Builders Association. And we've been in business for almost 80 years as an association. I'm a volunteer, as is Louis and Chris and Sean, and just want to let you know that we're about 500 companies strong, and our builders and developers and all of our associate members like Sean and Louis and certainly Chris have done a great job over the years with their companies. And we've heard recently that there are a number of companies that are fraudulent, that are taking deposits from companies, from individuals like you all. And these folks are not members of our organization. They've taken deposits and gone away. And we just want to let you know that our organization is extremely reputable. Our members are fantastic. Our association is about 80 years old. Our members have built over 1 million homes and millions and millions and millions of square feet of commercial space as well. We're part of a large federation of 140,000 companies known as the National Association of Home Builders. And we're in an 80-year-old trade association we relate to not only the 140,000 companies, but well over 10 million related employees. And we hope that you'll use many of the companies and go online to our website at hbadenver.org, .com, hbadenver.com. The phone number for the association is 303-778-1400. And you've got great emissaries in Louis and Sean and Chris tonight. And we thank you very, very much. And we hope to be able to help you today, tomorrow, and forever. Best wishes to all of you with the rebuilding of your homes and or the restoration. And Louis, thank you for the opportunity to visit.
Apropos time. So are there any questions for Chris, Sean, or Robert for that matter? Okay, just unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks to you all for doing this tonight. We did lose our house in Louisville, and so this is timely information. I have two questions for Sean. One is, if we're not, I mean, I get the whole idea of making sure we have the right wiring in the walls before the drywall goes up. So that seems really smart to us. But if we're not doing a lot of smart devices right now, could we come back later and put a smart panel in once we know more how we're going to use it? I mean, technology changes so much. I'm not sure I want to over commit to technology, smart technology now, if we're not really going to use a lot of it now.
You can, I mean, you can always retrofit stuff into it, but there's definitely, you're not going to get the full optimization that's out there. You won't really know where to go with it. I think one of the things that we see a lot of people do with our panels is they use that to get all the data so they know what smart technology they can or want to add down the road, particularly on the energy side. Again, we're focused on the energy side. Chris would have more smart technologies when it comes specifically probably interior to the home, and as he spoke about. But when it comes to the energy side of things, having that panel in place right away allows you to have the right data. Good example of that is we have a gentleman right now in actually outside of Waco. He's got the panel in, he's analyzing all the data so that he knows exactly how to tailor the rest of his energy needs down the road, whether it's adding 25 solar panels versus 30 based on what the real usage is. Does he need to have one battery for backup or is it two? And so he's able to utilize that panel to kind of bring that data, truly to what the buyer needs. So they don't spend extra money down the road.
So
Gotcha.
follow on to that. Sorry, Ann, to follow on to that. How challenging is it to replace a circuit breaker panel once it's in?
Replacing the panel itself is probably not overly complicated because it installs very similar to a standard breaker panel, which is great from a labor and cost perspective. But what the problem is if the reason you're replacing the panel is because you need additional service, then there is additional costs involved with the city and other places to bring additional wiring to the house itself.
Sorry, Ann, go ahead.
That's right. And then my second question is, what other manufacturers are there of smart panels? Are you the only one, or is this a pretty populated field, or what does it look like?
It's really not. So, we are the only smart panel that has the entire panel that gives a complete circuit level control down. Some of our competition have smart breakers, which is kind of more of a piecemeal add-on type situation. With our panel, because you can manage all that through the app itself and through that environment, you don't have to figure out right away, well, what I want this breaker smart and this one not. You actually get to make those adjustments real time as you find the need. You bet.
So Sean, a follow-on question that the competitors that are out there that just with the smart breakers, you can turn them off remotely. Is that right?
You can, but you can't turn them back on. That's a good point.
That's the downside.
Yeah, that is the downside.
Yeah. Okay. And anybody else have any other questions?
What are the life expectancies of the different components, either mechanical or electronic? And is part of these or some of these technology is going to be obsolete in 5 years? And in 5 years, will my drapes stay open all the time?
Sorry, Sean. Well, since I heard drapes, I'll chime in on that real quickly. Your automated shades still have a manual way of controlling them. So there's a way to press a button and or get the shade to move. Yes, I mean, with technology changes. I use the analogy of there's a new iPhone every year or even less, and Google's the same way. What we try to do is have a conversation with a client when we do a needs analysis, which by the way is free. We don't charge anything unless you're asking us to design a system for you with specifics. It's really just going through your plans and looking at your home and asking how you live in it. But automated lighting systems still have a manual way of controlling them. You have to have a way to turn lights off and on and control. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, technology moves quick. And what we would do in a needs analysis is figure out what's important to you and try to tailor something that is the least that will go out of style, the slowest, if you will, but yeah, I mean, things are going to change. Interfaces are going to change. Speeds are going to change. The decibel level of how loud a shade opens changes. There's just so many variables with automation, whether it be shades or lights or AV, that it is a very dynamic business, and it does change rapidly.
Yeah, and I'll speak to, for what we do at Span, we're constantly kind of evolving our programs, and everything, all the updates that we do are over the air. And as we get smarter, your panel gets smarter. So we're constantly looking for different ways to, based off feedback we get from customers or our installers, of ways we can enhance the homeowner experience. And so we're constantly looking at, different updates that are out there. We come up with things, every few months or a quarter, and update it accordingly.
Any other questions?
I have one more. We've heard, we have talked to our builder about, I think he called it a transfer switch, where you can sort of, back to that issue, that topic you were talking about if you have a backup battery, if you have solar and a backup battery system, at some point you might want certain circuits that would go to the backup system. So can you explain to me what a transfer switch is and how that differs from, I mean, I understand that the SPAN system is a whole top-down integrated system, but what is a transfer switch?
Well, the transfer switch is going to turn things on and off. And actually, great way to do it is if the power goes off, that transfer switch is then going to turn on or off the battery itself. So what we do is, again, because we've got circuit level control and we're managing that, we don't necessarily need the transfer switch in the same capacity, because we're looking at the entire battery per se, and we know exactly how much that load is, and when we make those adjustments, how much power that's either how much time, and we look at it from time, how much time does that add to your battery storage, or how much time does that take away?
So what if I don't have your panel though? How does the transfer switch work?
That would it would be on and off. So you're, and that's it. And again, there are control centers too that are out there that is, again, another cost that you could do that could potentially give you some capability. But typically a transfer switch is going to be kind of an on and off. So it's versus us where we can actually throttle it and actually utilize it, maximize your usage.
But you'd have certain, if it was just a transfer switch, you'd have certain circuits wired through that transfer switch, or?
That I don't know. I think you'd have to get specific as you install that down, whether you're going to, if your battery's connected to certain circuits, that's probably the way it would work. And again, that's where I kind of go back to when you bolt things on, you're having to really, make that decision right away. Where with us, you can actually make those adjustments as you utilize it and live in your home.
So Ann, to answer your question, in many ways, what ends up happening is for the things that really are required for you to operate your home, furnace, refrigerator, cooktop, usually what ends up happening in those situations is you go to a sub panel. Okay. And that's where the transfer switch starts coming into play and allows the connection to either battery or a generator. The other reason for that is you don't want to be able to put power out from away from the house for a number of reasons. And one is, you may be powering your neighbor's house, but the other is it can be very dangerous for, say, Xcel Energy to come to try to do service at near where your house is, say the transformer, and that wire is now live. And so they require that sort of circumstance. And I'm sure SPAN, your boxes do that automatically when they sense that there is a full power failure.
Yes, correct. Sorry.
So with that, I want to thank everybody for being here. And if you know of other people who wanted to listen in tonight but could not make it, this is being recorded, and you can go to the hbadenver.com website. I don't know when it may be up there, but probably be up there in a day or two. Yes, sir, Sean.
Just one last thing, and this kind of for you might be helpful. You can download, if you go to your app store, if you're either iPhone or Google, you can download the SPAN, SPAN app, and you can actually play in a demo situation without having to register. We don't ask for your information or do anything, but that may help answer some of your questions as well.
Cool. Well, with that, I want to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for being here. And if you want to listen in on Tuesday, as Robert was mentioning about lighting and wellness, it's a wonderful presentation. It's kind of an extension of what Chris was getting into, but we're going to have a gentleman from Listen Up, not Listen Up, by Urban Lighting, David Nestor, and then we have Jason August, who's going to be on there talking about home wellness. So that'll be Tuesday at 6:30. So very good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.